Ksoo just got hit with a massive sentence.
Talk to me.
Alright, y'all, so I don't know why, but every time he showed a clip, the audio would just get weird, but he doesn't have that many clips, so just chill on me.
But the real shock wasn't the verdict, it was who helped put him there. His own pops hit the stand and straight up snitched.
I saw that.
That was captured in video recording shooting Charles. Also, what's your son's name?
Ksoo's looking at life forever
You could tell
behind
you don't want to
bars.
say that,
Let me
bro.
break it down. The verdict that rocked the block. After all that cap on the gram, all them drill tracks talking about bodies and smoking ops, Ksoo finally had to face the consequences. And trust me, them consequences came back harder than a boomerang to the dome.
Circuit of the 4th Judicial Circuit in the Duval County, Florida, case number State of Florida versus Hakeem Robinson, verdict as to count 1. The jury found the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged.
3.5 hours, bro. That's
Imagine how his heart drops when he hears that, bro. Like, I know that's sickening.
all it took for 12 random people to peep all that evidence and say, yeah, this dude definitely did that dirty work. Imagine flexing on social media like you that boy, posting up like you really about that action, just for some strangers to decide your fate quicker than you can finish a whole season of Power. That's gotta hit different when you've been sitting in county thinking your legal team might pull some magic out their ass. The prosecution painted this picture like they was Bob Ross creating a masterpiece of murder. They said Ksoo, along
He's talking crazy. Is this the whole video?
with his co-defendants Leroy Whitaker, street name ATK Scotty, and Dominique Barner, sat down and planned this whole operation like they was organizing a neighborhood cookout. According to the state, they used the Duval County Clerk of Court's website. Yeah, the same website your grandma used to pay her parking tickets, to find Charles McCormick's home address.
Oh, damn. I'm sorry.
That's some next level stalker behavior right there, my guy. The prosecution's case was built on some serious
They used a government page to find somebody's address. I said that in one of my videos when they had the girl's address all over the video. Like, that's tough. That's not cool.
evidence that would make any defense attorney lose sleep and probably consider a career change. They had surveillance footage showing a mass shooter chasing Charles McCormick through Dames Point Plaza like some shit out of a horror flick. But the real kicker that sealed the deal? They found a rifle with Ksoo's fingerprints on it, plus a t-shirt with his DNA.
In the car is crazy. Why is it that car dirty?
All chilling in a stolen Nissan Altima that was used in the hit. That's like leaving your ID at a bank robbery and then acting surprised when the feds show up at your door. Not exactly criminal mastermind behavior, know what I'm saying? But hold up, it gets even more ridiculous than that. The state also brought up Ksoo's Instagram posts, claiming homeboy was literally flexing about the murder on social media like it was a new chain or some shit. Now, his defense team tried to spin it like these were just rap lyrics and artistic expression. But come on now, when you post encrypted messages after somebody get ventilated, and you're known for being in that street life, people gonna connect the dots faster than a kindergarten coloring book. It's like wearing a shirt that says, I did that shit, and then claiming it's just your fashion sense. His legal team tried their hardest, I'll give them that credit. They pulled out all the stops, talking about how the shooter in the footage looked too skinny to be Ksoo, how the witnesses described someone between 5'5" and 5'11", when Ksoo was clearly taller and thicker. They even used that fancy
5'5" and 5'11" is a big range though. Like, that's way too much of a leap, bro.
3D imaging technology to try to prove their point. But here's the thing about trying to outsmart science with more science. Sometimes it just makes you look more guilty than a kid with chocolate on their face standing next to an empty cookie jar.
Okay.
The defense also tried to throw Dominique Barner under the bus, painting him as the real mastermind behind the whole operation. Now Barner, bless his scheming heart, had already flipped and took a plea deal, reducing his potential life sentence down to 20 years. Smart move, honestly. When you're looking at life behind bars and someone offer you a way out for snitching, that ain't even a hard decision. That's survival instinct kicking in. But yo, here's where this story gets absolutely bonkers.
I know his defense didn't do that without asking Ksoo first though. So Ksoo, they both threw each other under the bus, bro.
And I mean love and hip-hop level of drama. The prosecution's star witness wasn't just some random street dude or some jailhouse snitch
that was his
looking
driver.
for a reduced sentence. Nah, they brought in Abdul Robinson Sr.,
his dad.
Ksoo's own pops. Let that marinate in your brain for a hot minute.
Oh, damn.
Your own father, the man who was supposed to ride for you till the wheels fall off, took the stand and pointed the finger at you for murder. Abdul Sr. didn't just testify reluctantly neither.
But he was gonna get time too, and he didn't even know about it. So I'll do the same thing, I'm not gonna lie.
He gave them the whole complete breakdown with extra sauce on the side.
That's some real power stuff. If you know, you know.
He confirmed that both his sons were down with ATK, and he even admitted to helping the shooters dip after the fact. This man really said, "I'm taking everybody down with me," and meant every word. The father's testimony was more devastating than a Category 5 hurricane because he had inside information that no regular witness could provide. He knew about the gang politics. He understood the motive behind the murder. And most importantly, he was right there during the cleanup helping to cover up the crime. When your own blood flips on you like that, it's usually game over. It's like having your own mama testify that yes, you did steal that last piece of chicken from the fridge, except the chicken is a human life and the fridge is a cemetery. The trial itself got delayed many times, which honestly just made things worse for Ksoo. Originally scheduled for August 2024, it got pushed to March 2025, then finally to July 2025.
So he's been in jail for
That's
a
almost
minute.
a full year of sitting in county jail, knowing that when your day finally come, your own father gonna be on the witness stand trying to send you upstate for life.
Tough.
Imagine the mental torture of waiting
That's
that
tough.
long, knowing exactly what's coming down the pipeline. Let's not forget that this dude is still facing another first-degree murder charge for the 2019 killing of...
So all this is, he's awaiting another murder charge on top of this one?
Damn!
These people, man. Like, I just forgot what I was even about to say, bro. I forgot.
Adrian Lil Bibby Gaynor Jr., who was only 16 years old when he got
Lil
smoked.
Bibby.
This case is also tied to the same ATK-KTA gang rivalry that led to Charles McCormick's murder, with Gaynor being linked to the KTA side of the beef. As of August 2025, this trial is still pending with no specific start date set, meaning Ksoo could potentially face another life sentence. The prosecution is expected to use similar evidence patterns.
Double
Witness
life is
testimony,
crazy.
potential social media references, and Abdul Robinson Sr. is scheduled to testify against his son again in this case too. It's like Ksoo was on a killing spree trying to rack up bodies for his street credibility, and now both cases are coming back to haunt him simultaneously. And what did the dude even gain from all of it? Well, definitely not money. When they asked about his assets during the trial, Ksoo admitted he only had about $1,000 to his name before getting locked up. $1,000.
Oh, damn. I'm sorry.
Money do you collectively have in your bank accounts? As far as you can remember, because I know you've been incarcerated for a long time.
Well, before I got locked up, I had like $1,000.
Here he was talking all that drill rap money talk, posting on Instagram like he was living like a trap lord, and homeboy was more broke than a college student during finals week. That's the realest shit about this whole case.
He probably has a lot of
that
cash,
fronting
though.
and flexing, and at the end of the day, he couldn't even afford a decent legal team without going through the public defender's office. When that guilty verdict dropped on July 31st, 2025, it wasn't just Ksoo who took that L that day. His family lost a son and brother. Charles McCormick's family got some justice, but their loved one still ain't coming back. And the Jacksonville community had to face the reality that their drill rap scene was producing real-life casualties. Under Florida law, first-degree murder carries a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. At his age, Ksoo gonna spend the rest of his natural life behind bars, all because he couldn't let some bars slide. That being said, let's get into deeper details about the murder.
Let's do it.
Blood turns cold. The ultimate betrayal.
Okay.
Now that we covered how Ksoo got his life sentence served to him on a silver platter, let's dive into the most jaw-dropping part of this whole saga. His father's testimony and Ksoo's dark motive. Abdul Robinson Sr. walking into that courtroom to testify against his own flesh and blood was probably the most shocking moment in Jacksonville legal history since they started keeping records. But before we get into how this man became the prosecution's MVP, let's break down what led to this family being ripped apart by violence, loyalty, and and some seriously misguided decisions. The Robinson family was already dealing with trauma that would break most people down to their core. On January 15, 2019, exactly 1 year before Charles McCormick got smoked, Willie Addison, who was like a son to Abdul Sr., got caught up in a drive-by shooting. But this wasn't just any regular drive-by. This was a full-blown massacre that left the entire family physically and emotionally scarred for life.
He was in the truck with me in the passenger seat.
Were you driving?
Yes.
So Willie was in the front passenger seat?
Yes.
Was anyone else in the vehicle?
My fault. Hold up. I
Family
kind of
physically
zoned
for
out. What
Charles
just
McCormick
happened?
and some seriously misguided decisions. The
I zoned
Robinson
out.
family was already dealing with trauma that
My
would
fault.
break most people down to their core. On January 15, 2019,
Okay.
exactly 1 year before Charles McCormick got smoked,
I was a freshman
Willie
in high
Addison,
school.
who was like a son to Abdul Sr., got caught
Okay.
up in a drive-by shooting. But this wasn't just any regular drive-by. This was a
Was
full-blown
it?
massacre that left the entire family physically and emotionally scarred for life.
Massacre?
He was in the truck with me in the passenger seat.
Were you driving?
Yes.
So Willie was in the front passenger seat?
Yes.
Was anyone else in the vehicle?
It was like 4 more people in the vehicle.
Who were they?
Abdul Jr., Moody.
Picture this scene. Fam, Abdul Sr. behind the wheel, Willie Addison riding shotgun, and the back seat packed with family members including Abdul Jr., who is Ksoo's brother, Abdul Sr.'s nephew Samuel, and Torgan Williams' street name Pooh Red. They just cruising through the neighborhood, probably chopping it up and vibing, when suddenly their whole world exploded into pure chaos. Multiple shooters opened fire on their whip, turning what should have been a regular day into a living nightmare that would haunt them forever.
Okay, so they were the target this time.
I drove to the hospital.
What was he about to
Shooters
say?
opened fire on their whip, turning what should have been a regular day into a living nightmare that would haunt them forever.
Everyone was shot. What did you do?
Well, I drove to the hospital.
You was what?
As I was driving, I could hear Willie making this gurgling noise.
No.
I was driving, because I didn't want him to die. I feel like he died alone.
The image of Abdul Sr. driving to the hospital while bleeding out himself, holding Willie's hand as he's making them final sounds, is some shit that would traumatize anybody for the rest of their natural life. This dude was
Gargling
literally
noise?
leaking
He's
his own
gargling on
blood,
his
but his
blood?
main concern was making sure Willie didn't pass away feeling alone. That's the type of trauma that changes a person's whole perspective on life and death, the type of shit that stays with you forever. But the damage didn't stop with Willie's death. Nah, it was just getting started.
Where was Abdul Jr. shot?
In the head.
Did he almost die?
Yes. I think he did. Came back.
What about your nephew? Was he hurt?
Yeah.
Blessed.
The aftermath was just as traumatic as the shooting itself. Abdul Jr. spent 3 to 4 months laid up in the hospital, and when he finally got discharged, he had to relearn basic human functions from scratch. Walking, talking, everything had to be rebuilt from the ground up. They had to hit
He
up
got
Brooks
shot in the
Therapy,
head,
and Abdul
though.
Sr. was right there helping his son recover from what should have been a fatal injury. But here's where the psychological damage really shows itself, and this is where it gets real dark. The shooting didn't just leave
need a
physical
haircut,
scars,
man.
it fundamentally changed who these young dudes were as human beings.
Was Abdul Jr. Affected mentally by the shooting?
Yes.
Also,
I think it made him more angry. Like, I don't know if was be the right word to use.
And Ksoo, who wasn't
Chill
even
on
in the
me.
whip during the shooting, was dealing with his own psychological damage from watching his family get torn apart right in front of his eyes.
how old was he Robinson after this?
I mean, he was angry about it. I mean, he was
So,
So by the time Charles McCormick dropped that diss track about Willie Addison,
so is this what like made him start turning up though? Dang, if this what made him start turning up in the streets, bro, I don't know if I can blame him, bro. Like his whole family nearly died, and the guy that was gargling on his blood, did he die?
he was basically poking a family that was already dealing with severe PTSD, unresolved anger, and a thirst for revenge that had been building up for a whole year. It's like throwing a lit match into a gas station. You know exactly what's about to happen next, and it ain't gonna be pretty.
Charles McCormick put out a song that personally upset you and your family.
And there, again, is Ksoo's motive.
Oh,
The fact
so
that
he
Charles
did
McCormick
die. He did die. And then they dropped a diss track. Okay, so he was already in the streets before this then. But like after that is when he really like started turning up, I guess.
to disrespect Willie Addison in a song shows just how disconnected he was from the reality of what this family had been through. Willie wasn't just some random op who got caught slipping in the wrong neighborhood. He was a beloved family member who died in his father figure's arms while the whole family watched helplessly. Talking about him in a diss track was like spitting in the face of their collective trauma and pain. Both Ksoo and Abdul Jr. brought that diss track to their father's attention. Imagine how that conversation went down in that household. Pops,
what did he say?
This nigga talking crazy about Willie in a song. After everything this family had been through, after all the therapy sessions and hospital visits and learning to walk again, some young rapper decided to pour salt in them wounds for the sake of street credibility and social media clout. The gang dynamics in Jacksonville made this situation even more explosive than it already was. Abdul Sr. confirmed that his sons were part of ATK, while Charles McCormick was affiliated with 6 Block, two crews that absolutely despised each other with every fiber of their being. This wasn't just some personal beef between individuals. This was full-blown gang warfare being played out through social media and rap music. ATK and 6 Block considered each other ops, which in street terminology means they were actively trying to harm each other whenever the opportunity presented itself. When Charles McCormick dropped that diss track, he wasn't just disrespecting Willie. He was declaring war on behalf of his whole set. When they asked who had the most desire to go after Charles McCormick because of that song, Abdul Sr. didn't even hesitate. Both of his sons were equally heated and ready for whatever.
I would say Abdul, my son, both of them. Hakeem and Abdul.
That's a father watching his children spiral into a mindset of revenge and retaliation, knowing that nothing good could come from it, but being powerless to stop the wheels.
He was smiling coming into
now
court,
let's break down
he
the
killed
actual
somebody,
crime and how Abdul Sr. went from protective father to accessory after the fact. According to his testimony, after the shooting went down, he found himself in the position of helping the shooters escape, including his own flesh and blood. So here's Abdul Sr., who's already been through hell and back with his family, suddenly finding himself as the getaway driver for a murder. He's picking up Leroy Whitaker and Dominique Barner, learning that Charles McCormick is dead, and instead of turning around and going straight to the police station, he keeps driving. That's the power of family loyalty, even when that loyalty is misguided and about to ruin everybody's life.
So that's why he still got
arrested.
arrested.
This dude took the bloody clothes from a murder scene and burned them behind a Burger King like he was disposing of some old newspapers. That's not just being a loyal father, that's being an active participant in cover.
So he would have got time regardless, but like, he didn't know what was going on when his son called him. That's why he told on him to get less time, I guess, because he was saying like he can't survive in jail, he's too old and stuff like that. But I didn't know he helped him burn his clothes and stuff though. That's interesting.
Up a homicide. The reason he gave for testifying was deeply personal and heartbreaking. He mentioned his health issues, kidney failure, and wanting to attend a daddy-daughter dance with his young daughter. Imagine being in such poor health that you realize you might not have much time left on this earth, and having to choose between protecting one child who made terrible decisions and being present for another child who still has a chance at a normal life. The defense tried to paint Abdul Sr. as self-serving and opportunistic, arguing that he only testified to reduce his own potential 60-year sentence down to 20 years through a plea deal. And honestly, they weren't wrong. He absolutely benefited from his cooperation with the state. But when you looking at spending the rest of it,
like, if he got the 20-year sentence, would he only have to do 10 years if he does good in prison or whatever? Is that how it would work? Somebody answer me, please.
Natural life in a cage and you got other children who need you, that math starts to make sense real quick. But the prosecution's case didn't rely solely on family drama and betrayal. They also had Dominique Barner, who had already copped his plea deal. According to Barner's testimony, he was the one who looked up Charles McCormick's address using the Duval County Clerk of Court's website, a detail that shows just how easy it is to find someone's personal information online these days. He claimed that he drove the stolen Nissan Altima, helped plan the ambush with military precision, and witnessed Ksoo shoot Charles McCormick after they followed him to Dames Point Plaza. But the defense wasn't about to let that slide without a fight. They attacked Barner's credibility with everything they had in their arsenal, calling him a well-known paid assassin with a history of lying to police and cutting deals to save his own skin whenever he got jammed up. They pointed out that he had admitted to lying initially and was involved in another murder case that was still pending. When your star witness is someone who has made a whole career out of violence and deception, it's pretty easy to poke holes in their story. The making of a
an
street
assassin
demon.
in real life.
Now we're about to dive into the realest
bro.
part of this whole story. How Hakeem Robinson went from being some regular kid in Jacksonville to Ksoo, the self-proclaimed drill demon who thought he was untouchable in these streets. Jacksonville's drill scene didn't just materialize out of thin air. This whole violent aesthetic that Ksoo embraced with both arms came from somewhere specific, and that somewhere is Chicago. The Windy City basically wrote the whole playbook on how to turn neighborhood beef into chart-topping albums, and every drill rapper from Jacksonville to London to Brooklyn has been copying that formula ever since, like it's some kind of blueprint for destruction. King Von was a major influence that shaped Ksoo's approach to drill music and street life. A Reddit post in the Duval County community compared the two, saying, if you think about it, Ksoo was really the King Von of Florida. They both was terrorizing the streets and both drill shit-talking rappers. Now that's a comparison that should make your blood run cold, because King Von's story ended the same way Ksoo's is about to, with a violent death for Von, or life in prison for Ksoo. King Von built his entire brand around being a demon in the streets, someone who was actually about that life he rapped about instead of just...
Let me add, that's not cool. Like Flight be saying, if you in the streets, cut that out. You're gonna get caught. There's cameras everywhere.
Talking tough for the cameras. His tracks weren't just entertainment for the masses. They were confessions set to music, right here. Detailed accounts of real violence he'd participated in. Von's social media presence was all about taunting rivals and making threats. Just like Ksoo's Instagram became a platform for disrespecting dead ops and bragging about violent acts like he was collecting trophies. The thing about King Von that probably appealed to Ksoo was how Von managed to blend storytelling with raw aggression in a way that felt authentic to the streets. Von could paint vivid pictures of street violence while maintaining his charismatic personality that drew people in like a magnet. That's exactly what Ksoo was trying to do with his music. Create this larger-than-life persona that was equal parts terrifying and magnetic, someone who could command respect through fear. Chief Keef's influence on the entire drill movement can't be ignored neither, especially when we're talking about the foundation of everything Ksoo was trying to build. As the pioneer of Chicago drill, Keef basically created the template that every other drill rapper has followed like gospel. His tracks like I Don't Like and Love Sosa introduced the world to drill's menacing sound and confrontational style that became the standard for the whole genre. When Keef joked about Lil Jojo's death on Twitter back in 2012, he showed young rappers like Ksoo that social media could be used as a weapon to disrespect rivals and gain attention. Keef's whole drill and drill mentality became gospel for young rappers who wanted to prove their authenticity in the streets. The idea that you had to actually live the violent lifestyle you rapped about or risk being exposed as fake created this toxic pressure that pushed artists like Ksoo to escalate their real-life behavior to match their musical personas. It's like being trapped in a cage where the only...
Ooh, bro, why are you looking bored in this trial? Like, you better focus up. Figure out if they gonna figure out the truth or not. What?
As fake created this toxic pressure that pushed artists like Ksoo to escalate their real-life behavior to match their musical personas. It's like being trapped in a cage where the only way out is to become more dangerous. But let's chop it up about Ksoo's actual music and how it reflected his violent mindset in the most disturbing ways possible. His 2020 project Violent Child wasn't just an album title. It was a mission statement, a declaration of war, and a psychological profile all rolled into one. The title itself suggests someone who has been shaped by violence from a young age, someone who sees aggression as a fundamental part of their identity rather than something to overcome. That's not artistic expression. That's psychological profiling set to music. Lyrics from Ksoo's song No Mind perfectly capture his mentality and show just how deep in the streets his head was. I know they talking about they want my head now, new chopper with a beam, it's gonna air it out. These ain't metaphors or clever wordplay designed to impress hip-hop heads. This is straight up paranoia mixed with murderous intent served on a platter. The phrase, they want my head now, shows he was living in constant fear of retaliation, while new chopper with a beam demonstrates his solution to that fear was always more violence. That line about the beam, laser sight, is particularly telling because it shows precision and premeditation in his thinking. This ain't spray and pray street shooting that happens in the heat of the moment. This is calculated assassination talk from someone who's thinking about how to kill people more effectively. When you rapping about laser sights and airing it out, you ain't just trying to sound tough for the cameras and streaming platforms. You describing exactly how you plan to handle.
Bro, I'm so happy I'm just like a regular dude, bro. Like, I'm not in the streets or nothing, bro. I don't gotta worry about none of that, bro. Like, I'm just hearing all these words he's saying, all these guns, all these terms he's using. It's like, bro, oh my gosh.
your problems, and spoiler alert, that's exactly what happened to Charles McCormick. But the most chilling lyrics came from his track, Violent Child.
I'ma listen to that.
That's exactly
he sounds like Young and Ace.
Charles McCormick at Dames Point Plaza. The victim was caught off guard, approached by a masked shooter, and executed in broad daylight like some professional hit. Ksoo wasn't just making music for entertainment. He was previewing his upcoming crimes for anyone who cared to listen closely enough. That's some serial killer behavior disguised as artistic expression.
I hope I don't get copyrighted
as hell
for that.
when you really think about it. We increase the murder rate ain't a punchline or clever wordplay. It's a mission statement and a confession all wrapped up in one. This dude really stood in front of a microphone and bragged about raising Jacksonville's homicide statistics like it was something to be proud of instead of something to be ashamed of. That ain't street credibility. That's admitting to being a public menace who's actively making his community more dangerous. The influence of older gangster rap icons like Tupac and NWA also shaped Ksoo's approach, but he took their rebellious energy and stripped away any social consciousness or artistic depth that made their music meaningful. When Tupac made Hit 'Em Up, it was a response to being shot and feeling betrayed by former friends who he trusted with his life. Ksoo's lifestyle was deeply intertwined with his musical persona, and that's where things get dangerous as hell. When you affiliated with ATK, NHG, No Hospital Gang, and yes, that name is exactly as menacing as it sounds. You ain't just playing a character for the cameras and music videos. You living in an environment where violence is normalized, where loyalty is measured by your willingness to commit crimes for the set, and where backing down from conflict is seen as the ultimate betrayal that could get you ostracized or worse. The drill scene will move on without Ksoo. New artists will emerge to take his place in the rotation, and the cycle will continue unless we make conscious efforts to break it at every level. But for Ksoo himself,
they out there tweaking in Florida, bro.